Thank you. And our next comment comes from Martin Hertzfeld. Martin, I will ask you to also lower your hand, please. Your line is unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me here?
Yes, we can.
Yes, hi. Well, my name is Martin Hertzfeld. I'm a licensed contractor. I'm also an OSHA authorized construction trainer. And I was formerly a UC Berkeley extension professor there too as well in 2012 when the program was abruptly discontinued. So I've been in the industry for quite some time, and I've looked at the report, and there's a lot of issues with the report. The big thing is that worker safety is not the same as practical safeguarding. So that's one issue there too as well. And as far as the data goes, there is no data that does indicate that there are those types of problems with energy storage systems specifically. Most of them are caught in or between or struck by. And so we should maybe encourage our solar athletes that are picking up the 100 to 200 pound batteries on the wall to be more careful. So falls are the number one issue. So I would also suggest the board take up some situations on some of these other issues that are more prevalent. Also, the installers, they're looking at being acceptable to trade standards and following manufacturer's instructions. What the report does, quite frankly, is it categorizes into buckets. And so it doesn't, like eggs in a bucket, and it does not specifically say how to make an omelet or how to follow a recipe. And so those are the main issues there. So I do agree with Frank and Kevin on their approach there. Again, I would validate this data against the Business and Professions Code 7109.5 and the violations of safety orders. So I strongly recommend
1 minute.
no changes at all.
Thank you. And again, Martin, if you could please lower your hand. Our next comment comes from Nick Vita. Nick, your line is open and you will have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Nick Vita with R&D Electric. We're based out of Sacramento and work throughout California. According to our experience, and the UCB report, robust safety measures that require significant technical capacity and knowledge are critical to mitigating the risk of BESS systems. Safety code revisions applicable to BESS have implemented even more rigorous requirements to protect the public and emergency responders. These changes included relatively low kilowatt hour thresholds for code coverage, significantly more safety provisions, and the requirement that the design and installation of the BESS be performed by qualified persons. A definition that points unambiguously to the need for electrical training. We urge the board to vote expeditiously at this meeting to exclude C46 licenses from the installation and maintenance of battery energy storage. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Andrew Rogers. Andrew, your line is open and you will have 3 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Beltran, Chair Granzella and board. I'd also like to thank the UC Berkeley group for this very comprehensive report. As a previous inspector and a current educator in NFPA 70E, the standard for electrical safety in the workplace, I have to say that I concur with many of the findings found in this report, and particularly those related to the inherent dangers of a battery energy storage system. And once again, particularly the importance of a qualified workforce. Now, noted in the report, electrical workers working for a C10 contractor are required to demonstrate that they have a defined working knowledge, and this is demonstrated through the state's certification process. This process highlights the importance of not only installation requirements as defined in the National Electrical Code, but in my opinion, more importantly, safety requirements as specified in FPA 70E. Now, though these two standards or resources are distinct, they converge when it comes to a very simple yet applicable definition, and that is the definition of a qualified person. Now, one of the things that is noteworthy in the report is that the report emphasizes this basic definition, I believe, almost, if not more, than 25 times in its findings. And ultimately, it's part of the recommendation in this report that the CSLB limit the scope of the C46 contractor. At least that's my determination from reading the report, that the CSLB limit the scope of the C46 contractor to its original scope, and then preclude the C46 license holder from installing battery energy storage systems, even when paired with a solar install. As it relates to safety, then, in my opinion, I emphatically concur with that
1 minute.
position. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Clay Malden. Clay, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I definitely agree with Berkeley's findings. I think that that we need to consider the safety of not only our employees, but also those of our clients, homeowners, children living in the home, those sorts of things. I'd suggest that that qualified people be working inside of main electrical panels, when we're backbeating for emergency load situations and those sorts of things. It's just, it's too much of a risk, I would say, for just anybody to be working in them. And when we hear these comments that these C46s can't find C10s to do the work, it's because they don't want to pay the price that it costs to use a C10 qualified person. So it's not the fact that they don't want to do the work. It's more of a fact of them trying to save money and use C46s for this stuff. I'd also too hope that at some point, C46s have to have qualified people to do the solar if C10s are going to be mandated to have the qualified staff. That I think C46s should be held to that same requirement, just so that safety across the board and fairness within bidding and having to pay the same qualified employees. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Karen Prescott. Karen, your line is open and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning again, and thank you for this opportunity. I represent contractors in the greater San Diego area who install a significant share of solar systems and energy storage systems, including residential. And by the way, we work very well within Title 24 and have no fear of it or the added paperwork, as mentioned by a previous speaker. I have also attended these CSLB meetings over the past several years, so I'm very familiar with those representatives who have claimed that there is no evidence that there is a safety problem with their BESS installs. It was noted in today's presentation that BESS is low frequency, high risk technology. While instances have been rare, they have serious consequences. As stated in the risk analysis, if they did recognize there was a weakness in the actual data. Why? There is no central repository of accident reports that specifically identify BSS accidents, but lack of reporting does not mean lack of problems. The lack of documented BESS accidents in California may be due to the fact that the great majority of installations have been carried out by contractors holding a C10 electrical license. There is no credible safety record for C46 contractors without a C10 A or B license because they have performed so few installations. Also noted in the presentation. With the understanding that electricity should be given a healthy respect, knowing your limits and applying the best electrical safety practices is the utmost important. At the very beginning of this presentation, it was stipulated that the goal is public safety. Public safety is and should remain the highest priority. The best electrical safety practices is restricting C46 contractors to solar only with no
1 minute.
permission to install BESS. Thank you. I made it in a minute.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Robert Wynn. Robert, your line is unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Yes, hi, I'm Bob Wynn. I'm the owner and president of Sky Power Solar in San Ramon. We're a solar and energy storage contractor. Been doing it for 16 years. I'm just going to say that I am strongly disagree with the proposal. I respect the work and the good intentions, but the reality of the available workforce is there are just not enough certified people to do this work. It's going to cause basically the end of this business at a time when it's so important to the community and the grid. So again, I am against this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Michael Rose. Computer's very touchy today. My apologies. Michael, your line is unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can.
I'd like to begin by thanking the board for this opportunity to speak. I'm Michael Rose from Taft Electric Company. There's no higher priority at Taft than the safety of our people. Our safety culture is at the highest level, working top down from the president to have complete accountability. A safe workplace is management's top priority. We utilize an extensive safety training program with the best workforce available and have an overall goal to zero injuries. And Taft has won a long list of safety awards. We know safety and are dedicated to it. Battery energy storage can be hazardous if not installed and maintained by qualified workers. C46 contractors should not be allowed to install BESS because, as the university report states, no such review of the C46 electrical workforce is possible since there is no comparable skill standard, and therefore we cannot confidently classify these workers as qualified personnel. With appreciation, we urge the board to bring this multi-year consideration to an end today. I think I'm less than a minute, I hope. I'm done.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Wen Liu. Wen, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Wen Liu. I'm a project executive for the Renewables Division at Collins Electrical Company. Leadership from Collins Electrical have attended many of the CSLB hearings over the past 4 years and have heard the following distortions: that C46 workers are qualified because their employer passed a test, that energy storage equipment is plug and play, that lead acid batteries are similar to lithium ion batteries. I'd like to compliment and thank the CSLB for selecting UC Berkeley to conduct the study and report. It was thorough, rigorous, and fact-based. I'd like to also congratulate UC Berkeley for being ranked #1 public university in the nation according to the 2021 QS World University Rankings. Now, guys, 4 years is a long time. I urge the board to vote today and preclude C46 contractors from installing and maintaining battery energy system storage systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment comes from, searching my list, Joe Sullivan. Joe Sullivan, there you are. Your line is unmuted and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, board and chair, and also thank you, UC Berkeley, for its work. I am an LA-based energy solutions business developer, and as someone who spends time often working on battery storage projects, a major obstacle I face is confidence in the safety and performance of these systems. And we need to do everything we can to make sure investors feel as safe and protected as possible when investing in these battery storage systems. Board members, with all due respect, you have the authority to move this market forward by providing that much needed confidence. And for the health of our industry, please act today on the UC Berkeley findings, which assert that we strongly recommend that the CSLB limit the scope of the C46 to its original scope and preclude C46 license holders from installing BESS, even when paired with solar, unless they hold another license under which BESS installation is permitted. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Gary Gerber. Gary, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes. Gary, we can't hear you if you're speaking. If you're connected by a phone and computer, you'll need to make sure your phone is unmuted as well as your computer. And if you're calling in by phone, I'm not sure why we're not able to hear you. I will circle back to you. Move on to Natalie Higley. Natalie, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick. I really respect all of your time and appreciate you giving us the opportunity to speak today. My name is Natalie Higley and I work with electrical workers in the Santa Rosa area. California Solar and Storage Association representatives have often claimed that C46 contractors should be allowed to install battery energy storage when paired with solar because, in their words, there is no evidence of any safety problems with their work. UC Berkeley has researched their claims and found them not to be verifiable. There is no central repository of accident reports that specifically identifies BESS accidents, but lack of reporting does not mean lack of problems. I respectfully submit that C46 contractors and their workers who have no state requirements for electrical training, testing, and certification should not be installing battery energy storage paired with solar. Your agreement and decision today will protect consumers and make our state safer. Please do not delay. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to Joel Koppel. Joel, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes.
Good morning. I'm Joel Koppel. I'm in project development, and many of those projects include some type of energy storage. In reviewing the UC Berkeley findings, I found this important information. C10 contractors with or without C46 licenses are much more numerous than C46 contractors and have entered the market in greater numbers than C46 non-C10 contractors. The CSLB has on record 25,298 active licensed C10 contractors and 1,240 active C46 contractors. 447 contractors hold both licenses. A CSLB ruling that C46 non-C10 A or B contractors cannot install BESS systems would only minimally impact the current pool of BESS contractors in California, since the share of contractors currently installing BESS who are in this category is very small. Deciding this issue without delay to restrict C46 contractors to solar only could actually improve conditions for current workers. If these businesses take advantage of the opportunity to help their employees gain skills and certification, the employers and employees would both benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from John Campbell. And John seems to not be on the call. He may have dropped off. I will check back and circle back around. Hunter Stern is next. Hunter, your line is unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Hunter Stern. I am the Assistant Business Manager of IBW Local 1245 and the Chair of the Coalition of California Utility Employees, or CUE. CUE first provided comments on this issue to the board over 3 years ago. We're very pleased to see that the board has been able to take long overdue action on this matter, or is considering it. The member unions of CUE represent over 50,000 workers and employees who work at the electric utilities in California, both publicly owned utilities like SMUD and investor-owned utilities like Southern California Edison. CUE has long been active in legislative support, supporting efforts to increase the renewable portfolio standards, including both solar and energy storage capabilities in California in order to address climate change. The goal to install these systems, however, does not need to be at the expense of public safety or worker safety. And this is a key point for utility workers. The safety and performance of energy storage systems, BESS, is of particular concern to CUE because these systems are increasingly interconnected with the utility's own distribution systems. Improperly installed energy storage systems do pose a risk to workers, a risk to emergency responders and the general public. Where connected to the grid, these systems can also pose risk to utility infrastructure and the utility workers that maintain and operate that infrastructure. These dangers do not diminish when energy storage systems are paired with solar PV systems. And if the C46 contractors are not qualified to install a standalone energy storage system, they should not be allowed to install an energy storage system just because it is paired with a PV system. We asked the board to rescind its policy allowing C46 solar contractors to install energy storage systems, since those systems are beyond the scope of their license or expertise. If a C46 solar contractor wants to install an energy storage system, they should be required to obtain the C10 license. Contractors commonly hold multiple licenses, as we heard in the UC Berkeley study, in order to be qualified to perform the different types of work. Why should we make C46 contractors allow them to be treated differently? We do appreciate the opportunity to make these comments, and we recommend the motion that's on the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Barbara Cox. Barbara, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Barbara Cox, and I teach electrical construction safety in San Mateo County. I'd like to thank the board for this time to speak, and I'll try to keep my comments brief to respect the time constraints we have. According to the Berkeley report, robust safety measures that require significant technical capacity and knowledge are critical to mitigating the risk of battery energy storage systems. Best safety measures are embedded in numerous codes, which are continually revised to address evolving technologies and risks. The most relevant are the NFPA, NEC, and ICC codes. The minimum safety requirements that are established in these codes apply to applications from grid utility to residential, and recognize that BESS in all applications, even in capacities as low as 1 kilowatt hour, require that the installation of BESS be performed by, quote, qualified persons, unquote. C46 workers are not qualified because they have no electrical construction training, testing, or certification requirements. Please do not delay. Please support the motion that's on the floor at this time, and I will yield the remaining of minutes of my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm going to circle back to Gary Gerber. Gary, your line is open.
Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Oh, good. I switched to the computer. Yes, I'm Gary Gerber, founded Sunlight and Power in 1976, one of the oldest and first solar design and installation companies in California. We've been designing and installing solar PV and storage systems for over 20 years. In our 45 years, we've never had a serious injury from any of the electrical work our crews have done. We've never had a fire. Many of our early battery systems were DC coupled, meaning our crews had to be capable of wiring a series of batteries in series parallel using 4-aught cables. Many of those systems are still out there and will require service. I would bet that the average certified electrician knows virtually nothing about this type of work, has never touched a DC coupled solar battery, and would be incapable of servicing or even understanding such a system without the training that we have given our people over the years. A C46, on the other hand, has been tested specifically on these systems. If you decertify the C46, we'll be faced with the irony, in the name of safety, of orphaning thousands of existing battery storage systems, and as a result of their lack of available servicing, they'll become less and less safe. As far as the safety presentation, the Berkeley Center was misleading, came straight out of the IBEW presentation we've already seen. They even used the same provocative photo of a utility scale fire in Arizona, installed no doubt not by a C46 license holder. These are overstated safety dangers that have nothing to do with the license classification of the installers. The low safety risk of lithium-ion batteries like thermal runaway are inherent in technology, not in the installation. On a residential scale, a safe installation basic nowadays consists of securely hanging the battery on the wall per the plans and securely attaching the wires to the battery box per instructions. Very similar to just wiring up an electric dryer. Finally, let's look at the numbers. The IBEW claims there are 37,000 certified electricians in California. The vast majority of those electricians are not employed in the solar industry. How many of those electricians are unemployed? Maybe 5%. So that means the available labor force to come to the aid of the industry that is decimated by decertifying the C46 is about 1,800 unemployed electricians. How is that going to work? You'll see from the solar job census that there are actually about 34,000 solar installer jobs in California. I strongly disagree with the numbers I saw in the Berkeley study.
15 seconds.
So we're going to have about 2,000 unemployed electricians to make up for the 30,000 or so C46 installers who are going to be put out of work by decertifying the C46. It'd be a disaster for the industry, for the customers, and for the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Robert Raymer. Robert, I will remind you to lower your hand as well. Your line is unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Members of the board, I'm Bob Raymer, Senior Engineer with the California Building Industry Association. The CBIA is an association representing over 3,100 member companies involved in residential and light commercial construction. CBI members are responsible for over 85% of the new homes built in California each year. And as you're probably aware, the Energy Commission adopted a mandate for rooftop solar for all new homes and apartments starting in January 2020. Unfortunately, most of the electricity produced from rooftop solar is generated during the hours of 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. when the homeowner and especially the grid does not need this power. At the same time, the state has started implementing time of use rates. And on top of that, the Public Utilities Commission is in the process of updating California's net energy metering rules that sets the rates for compensation for excess electricity the homeowner sends into the grid. This rate of compensation is almost certainly going to be smaller in the near future. The bottom line is that homeowners with rooftop solar are going to want to be able to keep that cheap electricity on site for use in the evening when they turn on their air conditioner and the electric rates go way up. So there's a growing demand for battery storage tech in new home construction, and this is exacerbated by the need for grid harmonization coupled with the state's desire to drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Regardless of whether the cost of batteries continues to decline, it is highly probable that the legislature or the Energy Commission will mandate batteries in new homes before 2030. We have a perfect storm taking shape, and CBIA hopes the CSLB keeps this in mind when determining the course of action today or in the near future. To date, my office has not received a single complaint regarding the installation of the relatively small batteries in garages at the same time solar is being installed on the roof. Since it appears to be a pretty good track record for both safety and quality of installation thus far, CBI hopes the CSLB will continue to allow C46s to install batteries with solar in both new and existing low-rise residential market. We completely understand the concern voiced over the potential for a C46 installing large and complex commercial scale batteries, but that's not what we're asking for. We'd prefer that the CSLB consider the small risk associated with the low-rise residential and allow the C46s to continue operating there. So at this point in time for low-rise residential sector, we don't see the need for a change at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Gretchen Newsom. Gretchen, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes.
Sorry, can you hear me okay still?
We can.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Gretchen Newsom. I work with installers of commercial and residential solar and battery energy storage systems throughout California. I just wanted to point out and remind everyone that the UC Berkeley report finds that, quote, the very small percentage of contractors holding a C46, but not a C10 A or B license, leads to the conclusion that precluding or restricting C46s, again with no C10 A or B, will have a negligible effect on the current pool of contractors. This whole issue is also significantly related to safety, and taking the action today, which I fully support the motion at hand, would protect people and property. Also, the UC Berkeley report strongly recommends that, quote, the CSLB limit the scope of the C46 to its original scope and preclude C46 license holders from installing BESS, even when paired with solar. With all due respect, I urge the board to preclude the C46 solar classification from installing all battery energy storage systems in any application of any size. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Ian Lockwer. Ian, your line is open. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, and hello to all members of the CSLB board. My name is Ian. I represent Baker Electric Home Energy, one of the largest installers of PV solar and battery storage in California. I'm asking you to eliminate the authorization of C46 only contractors to perform any battery energy storage work. The main difference, as noted, between C10 and C46 license holders is the technical and safety capacity of the C10 workforce compared to the C46 workforce. According to UC Berkeley, and indeed our own experience, C10 contractors are required to employ certified electricians to carry out electrical work, whereas C46 contractors are exempt from the state requirement for electrical training, testing, and certification. The C46 workforce, a C10 workforce, has indeed documented knowledge, skills, training as required by the state of California, including thousands of hours of experience. The C46 workforce has no such documentation. As a major solar and BESS contractor, I strongly urge you to not allow contractors who only hold a C46 license continue doing any battery energy storage work. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Zainab Badi. Your line is open. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Zainab Badi. I'm here on behalf of Grid Alternatives. We're headquartered out of Oakland and are the largest nonprofit solar installer in the country. Since 2004, we've provided no-cost or low-cost solar systems to thousands of low and moderate income customers in the state and have recently begun providing our clients with battery storage through the SCHIP program. Grid recommends making no change to the existing C46 classification and continue allowing C46 license holders to install storage in conjunction with solar. The demand for storage projects is extremely high among our low to moderate income customers, and it's predicted to continue growing as we face more extreme weather events more frequently. And it's critical to ensure that there's a large supply of labor to provide residential customers with batteries, especially in the middle of wildfire season and major power shutoffs. We are a workforce training organization as well, and we have thousands of people participate in our solar training program since our founding, many of whom come from disadvantaged and hard to hire backgrounds. Our trainees receive hands-on installation experience under the supervision of trained experts, and requiring certified elections would create barriers for job trainees working in obtaining an important skill set for their career trajectory. So this would be an enormous disservice to people from disadvantaged backgrounds seeking to enter the clean energy workforce, along with reducing the supply of trained and qualified workers to install storage in the future. Safety is of utmost importance to us. We definitely understand the concern, but the C46 license was created to encompass both solar PV and storage installations. Like others have mentioned, C46 contractors have been installing storage in California with no recorded storage-related incidents in the state. So we believe that restricting C46 residential storage installation would be a costly and inequitable solution in search of a problem. Once again, we respectfully recommend that the board continue allowing C46 license holders to install storage, as these changes would impact both customers and the workforce. And I'll end it there. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Andy Schwartz. Andy, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes.
Great. Thanks so much. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Excellent. Well, good morning. My name's Andy Schwartz with Tesla. Thank you for the opportunity to address this issue. From Tesla's perspective, requiring all storage systems to be deployed by C10 contractors is premature and frankly unsupported by the evidence presented. We recommend CSLB reject the motion and instead continue to gather feedback and information to determine if a change is necessary or if there are alternative approaches for CSLB to consider given the evolution of storage technologies. With respect to Tesla's battery storage systems, tens of thousands have been deployed throughout the state and hundreds of thousands deployed globally without issue. Importantly, there is no evidence provided in the Berkeley report to indicate that the specific proposed change is needed or to result in improved safety outcomes. I do want to spend a few moments this morning correcting the record as it relates to Tesla products and approach to installation safety. The report cites Tesla's installation manual on page 61, implying that the manual's reference to competent electricians is insufficient. To clarify, the manual is not specific to California as intended to serve multiple regions, and the licensing and certification requirements for installers do vary by region. In the case of Tesla solutions, anyone deploying a Tesla Powerwall needs to demonstrate their competence to Tesla by going through our training and quality control program. This includes training about the specific components of the technology and how our products specifically should be handled and installed. As the board is aware, all systems listed to UL 9540 must undergo a variety of tests to ensure the system isn't compromised, even if wiring in the field is done incorrectly. The report implies that Tesla's UL 9540 certification is not sufficient because it hasn't gone through UL 9540A tests. This is incorrect. Tesla's Powerwall product has completed all testing under UL 9540A. Additionally, the board should not discount the capabilities and experience of C46 workers. In the context of these discussions, a seasoned C46 worker may have a far more relevant skill set relative to a C10 qualified worker based on their individual experience and focus on deploying solar and storage systems. Further, forcing entities that currently only have a C46 license to operate under a C10 license may have a material impact on labor availability and create barriers to entry for smaller installers. This will ultimately result in increased costs and protracted deployment timelines for customers. The report's analysis appears limited in this regard, as it focuses only on the supply of electricians that would be qualified to work under a C10 license, but does not assess the level of demand that exists for their services generally. I will close by noting that Californians currently face a very challenging environment when it comes to electric reliability. In the past year, we have seen hundreds of thousands of customers lose power for days at a time, either from wildfires or from efforts by the utilities to mitigate fire risk by de-energizing their transmission lines. We've also seen rolling blackouts as a result of power shortages in the face of extreme heat throughout the West. In these circumstances, the state should be looking for ways to reduce costs, accelerate timelines, and generally facilitate more installations in support of customers' very understandable desire to deploy clean and robust backup solutions like battery storage paired with solar. The motion on the table moves in the opposite direction. For all of these reasons, we ask that the board reject the motion at this time and provide an opportunity for additional review and feedback. Thank you so much for your time and consideration this morning.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Brandon Carlson. Brandon, your line is open. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning. I'd like to extend my appreciation for this discussion being open, and I hope to answer a few questions and provide some clarification to the board. My name is Brandon Carlson, and I'm a past contractor and consultant with more than 20 years in the residential storage industry within California. I have written for IAEI magazine regarding PV and BESS disconnecting means, and I'm a contributor to the NFPA 70, a constant contributing member of SEAC and a member of IREC's Technical Advisory Committee. I also train AHJ representatives in proper BESS safety and review for residential systems, and am a consultant to energy storage manufacturers regarding codes, standards, and safety listings. To sum up, my career is reviewing concerns and data, and then addressing gaps in BESS safety in California. My opinion stated today is my personal view. I'd like to address what Nancy Springer mentioned about energy storage dealing with the section of the code that isn't photovoltaic. BESS installed with photovoltaics began in Article 690 of the NEC, which is solar photovoltaic systems. Only recently have they been moved to their own section of Article 706. This information has been included in the C46 test. There's also no mention in this report of UL's 9540A testing. That test is directly related to today's concerns regarding explosions, fires, and damage from failures. UL 9540 and UL 9540A are specifically designed for equipment as mentioned, plug and play. It's amazing to me that a decision this large may go through today without speaking with any of those within the industry that have been creating codes and standards regarding energy storage over the last 30 years. It's important to remember that before solar could be interconnected to the grid in California pre-2000, nearly all solar electric systems relied entirely on energy storage. To strip C46 license holders, the certification that this board itself originally recommended for solar and energy storage at the time, the ability to perform a job that they have been doing for the last several decades would cripple many small businesses within the industry with little warning and very little time to prepare. This would come at a time when many of these businesses are just starting to recover from the pandemic. My opinion comes from me as an independent individual who personally holds little stake in the outcome. However, I find the report provided by UC Berkeley's Labor Center to be critically flawed, and I'm concerned that recommendations mentioned in the report were provided by individuals lacking any actual experience or hold any credentials within the energy storage industry. As always, for the state staff, I am available after the meeting for any member of the board should they have any questions or comments, and I'll put my contact information in the chat. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Gregory Santos. Gregory, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Greg Santos with Rosendin. The Rosendin Renewable Energy Group is one of the largest solar and energy storage contractors in California and the United States. Our extensive experience makes it clear to us that solar PV systems and BESS are separate systems. That these are separate systems is shown most plainly by the separate definitions of a solar PV system and a BESS system contained in the California Electric Code and in separate California fire codes. While energy storage systems may be connected to solar energy systems, they are neither required to install PV systems, nor are they incidental to the installation of PV. 4 years of testimony and the UC Berkeley report demonstrate conclusively that BESS and solar PV systems are separate systems. So we at Rosendin urge the board to cap this 4-year process and clarify at this meeting that C46 contractors are not authorized to install battery energy storage when paired with solar PV. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next comment comes from Ramsey Stevens. There you are. Okay, and Ramsey, if I can just remind you to lower your hand as well. I've unmuted your line and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Honorable board members, thank you for your service. My name is Ramsey Stevens, and I am a sustainable energy and real estate project developer. I have extensive experience with the development and underwriting of microgrids in particular that include battery energy storage systems. These projects are incredibly complex and can be hazardous and, of course, even deadly. The last thing developers like myself and the financial underwriters we work with is to worry about the capabilities and safety of the contractors installing these systems. Please do the right thing today without delay. Ensure that there is a strong baseline of quality control, competency, and safety in the battery energy storage market by precluding C46 licensees from installing battery energy storage systems. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Casey Salkauskas. I apologize for that. Finding you in my list. There you are. All right, Casey, your line is unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, my name is Casey Salkauskas. I'm a utility employee. Energy storage batteries are becoming more common and are presenting increasing challenges. I am very concerned about the safety of the utility workers and the public in general. According to the Berkeley report, BESS can be very hazardous, especially if improperly installed and or maintained. BESS can do and can cause fires. Those fires can jump property lines and become very dangerous and deadly and large and cause large area fires. Importantly, improperly installed BESS can also pose serious electrical shock risk to electrical workers on both sides of the meter. I believe, based on my utility work and experience, that there is no time to waste and that the board should decide today to exclude C46 contractors from installing or maintaining battery energy storage systems. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Jeff Spice. Jeff, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes.
Yes, hello, thank you. My name's Jeff Spies, and I find the Berkeley Labor Center's report to be highly biased and prejudicial. It distorts and manipulates the facts. I'll get to that in a moment, but first let me provide my qualifications for making my statements. I'm a member of the UL 9540 Standard Technical Panel for Energy Storage Systems. I was a co-proponent of the RB 154 proposal to the International Residential Code, which establishes the size and siting requirements for energy storage systems already active in the 2021 California Intervening Code. I chair the Codes and Standards Committee for the California Solar and Storage Association, and I'm a 15-year veteran of the solar and storage industry. I serve as president of Planet Plansets, a solar plan drafting company based in Anaheim, California. Now, the center presents biased data related to which contractors are installing the bulk of the solar and storage systems today. They show you the percentage of contractors who hold only a C46 license and no other license. But they fail to show you that the percentage of contractors who hold only a C10 license and no other license. Essentially, the vast majority of contractors installing ESSs hold multiple licenses and install under the C46, which are not legally obligated to hire only certified electricians. The fact that the center left this data out when it was an obvious question and part of their data review is suspicious at best. Only C10 contractors are required by law to employ only certified electricians. Why did they leave that out? Probably because the percentage of pure C10 contractors installing energy storage systems is extremely low. The board needs to understand that this data omission undercuts the center's conclusions, and there will be no fiscal impact of this regulatory change. It will be huge. Now, in fairness, Don Holstrom's report is filled with inaccuracies of errors and omission. Don was the expert hired to provide the technical evidence, and there's absolutely no evidence or official reports provided in the report that shows that lithium battery failures were caused by installation errors made by C46 contractors. In fact, the lithium battery failures referenced in the report were installed by licensed electricians. The fact this report omits. They also claim that the LG Chem battery is not listed to 9540. That is incorrect. It is indeed listed with the Storage Energy Hub inverter, and Tesla has completed their 9540A testing, which they are stating they have not. LG Chem should have it shortly. Don was hired as a technical expert, but if you checked his LinkedIn profile, which I did, it shows that he has no experience in energy storage systems whatsoever. In fact, 20 minutes ago, Don checked my profile, so he is online. The fact that he can't be here, I find to be disingenuous, considering the fact that he's checking LinkedIn at the same time that he can't be at this meeting. It shows that he's retired from the chemical hazard industry. He uses the term battery energy storage system, and the only place that appears in code is referencing flow batteries, not lithium batteries, not lead acid batteries, flow batteries. So his ignorance on this term is hard to comprehend. I encourage that the board dismiss the report findings and allow C46s to continue their safe installation of energy storage systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next comment comes from Rick Bonilla. Rick, your line is unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. And good morning. My name is Rick Bonilla. I am the Deputy Mayor at the City of San Mateo. I'm also a member of the Executive Committee and the Board of Directors at Peninsula Clean Energy, providing energy to electrical consumers in the County of San Mateo, as well as the City of Los Banos. My statements today do not represent an official position of Peninsula Clean Energy or the City of San Mateo. These are my personal thoughts based on my own experience. I come to speak today in support of option 2 from the UC Berkeley Battery Energy Storage System report regarding qualifications of actual installers. Having worked in the construction industry for my entire career, first as a carpenter and then as a superintendent performing tenant improvement works at hospitals and laboratories mostly, I know how important safety is. Safety and reliability for both the installer and the end users is paramount. And I believe that only the C10 electrical contractor employing California certified electricians can properly do this job. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And our next comment comes from Jason Smith. Jason, your line is open. You will have 3 minutes. Jason, can you hear us? We cannot hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, there you are.
I just want to follow some of the direction that was originally provided and say that I do agree with the gentleman stating that the C46 contractors can install BES. I agree with Gary from Powerlight, the gentleman from Tesla, and Jeff Spies. Not to mention, I would like to reiterate, although briefly, that the Berkeley study did cite failures BSS outside the state of California, which were utility projects installed by the equivalent type of a contractor's license that would have been a C10. Following the logic of the UC Berkeley study, it would lead one to believe that it would not be the C46, but the C10 contractor's license that should be precluded, given the nature of the failures that were used to promote the limitations of the C46 from the Berkeley study. I also wanted to note that there was a gentleman earlier in the discussion who had stated that one of the reasons why C46 contractors do not want to hire C10s is because of them being union electricians. I think that to be false as well. At any time that I have worked for a C46 or a C10, it has always been that the field and the people have been well-trained technicians, regardless of the nature of the contractor's license, but specific for the application of the work being performed. I hope that the board votes down the motion.